Today, we'll do an experiment with banana bread. First, I have a new recipe that I want to try out, and then I also want to add different mix-ins to the different loaves of banana bread. So I will be using this dark chocolate, not all of it, that I got at Trader Joe's for one of them. I think I'm going to use some dried fruit for another one. And my recipe said that it is for 2 loaves, but I have a lot of bananas that need to be used up. So I have 6 bananas, and the recipe calls for 2 cups of bananas. So I'm going to mash my bananas because I might be making 1.5 batches instead of just 1 batch. So I have to mash the bananas first and then measure them to know how much of the other ingredients that I'm going to need to make this banana bread. Okay, I have about 3 cups of bananas, so I'll be making 1.5 batches. So let me start with my wet ingredients. I'm going to start mixing them up while I measure my dry ingredients. So now I need 1.5 cups of sugar and 3 eggs.
The recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons of salt, but I'm thinking that's too much, so I decided to add 3/4 teaspoons instead.
Okay, the recipe calls for either sour cream or plain yogurt. I only have berry yogurt, so I'm going to be using that. And it calls for 1/2 cup, but since I'm making 1.5 batches, I'm going to use 3/4 cup. And I actually think this whole thing is going to be about 3/4 cup, so I'm just going to put the whole thing in. All right, now I'm going to add all the bananas. Actually, I'm going to add them a little at a time because there's a lot. Okay, this looks good and mixed. Now I have to divide it into 3 parts before I add in the mix-ins because I want to make different sample loaves. So I'm not sure exactly how much volume is here, and I want it to be distributed evenly between the 3 loaf pans. So how do I measure it? I'm going to put it into the loaf pans first and then put my mix-ins and then mix in each one. I'm gonna see if that works. I'm gonna line the loaf pans with parchment paper first so that I don't have to wash them after. And I think this way it's also gonna make it easy to remove the loaves from the pans after they're baked. Okay, this is a good way to measure because then I can know how many scoops are going in each one. Okay, that's evenly distributed. Now I'm going to find things to put in them. Okay, we have to cut this chocolate bar up because I want to put dark chocolate in one of them. Okay, I cut up 7 of the dark chocolate chunks. I think it's too much, so I added about 5 to the pan. So I'm gonna mix this in now. And I have to be careful not to poke through the paper or else this is not gonna come out easily. I think this one's gonna be really good. I'm not a chocolate person normally, but this dark chocolate smells really good. And I got it from Trader Joe's, and it says it's imported from Belgium. So this is actually an international food experiment. All right, that's done. I'm just gonna scrape it off because I don't want any chocolate in the fruit ones. So now I have some dried blueberries that I got at Costco a while ago for some cookies, and I have extras left over, so I'm gonna add some here. And that's probably about 1/4 to 1/2 cup that I'm adding. I think blueberries will probably go well with banana. We'll find out. Okay, now for the cranberries. Although I think I'm gonna add craisins, like dried cranberries, and some white chocolate chips to the last one. These aren't actual craisins, they're Kroger brand dried cranberries. But they're similar to the Ocean Spray craisin brand. So maybe about 1/4 cup of that, and then 1/4 cup of white chocolate chips that I also have left over from previous cookies. I'm kind of lazy baking because I don't like to wash a ton of bowls when I'm done, so I often use parchment paper to line pans and casserole dishes and stuff like that so that I don't have to wash it when I'm finished baking. And then it also makes it so that it comes out a lot easier. There's no greasing and flouring pans. I just pull the parchment paper lining out with whatever it is I'm baking. It doesn't stick, nothing is dirty, and I can add in extra stuff like this without having to dirty up additional bowls or plates. But that's just because I don't like to do dishes afterwards. Okay, I have my 3 loaves here for the experiment. This is the dark chocolate banana, the blueberry banana, and the dried cranberry / white chocolate chip. And this needs to go into a 325 Fahrenheit oven for about 55 minutes. It might have to cook longer because I'm putting 3 loaves in there instead of just 2. So I'm gonna check it after about 45 or 50 minutes and see where it is. Also, I have a convection oven, so sometimes that speeds up the baking process a little bit. So I'm gonna check this after 45 minutes, and it could need 10 to 15 minutes longer. So I'm gonna put that in, and we'll come back in 45 minutes. The bread took a little bit longer than 55 minutes to cook in the oven, and I checked it by using a skewer. I poked it in the center of the loaf, and when I took it out, initially it was still wet inside. So then I baked it for a little bit more, and then I checked it again, and the stick came out dry, so I knew it was ready to come out of the oven. So this is the chocolate one, this is the blueberry one, and this is the cranberry and white chocolate one. And once this cools down enough, I will remove the loaves from the tins and also remove the paper, and I can slice them up. But if I try to do it when it's too hot, it's just gonna crumble apart. And then I'm gonna have a taste test, and I think one of my sons will help me with that later. So after this cools, we'll come back and see how they all taste. My son had some of his friends over for dinner, and he made them ramen, and I had them taste the different breads. Everyone liked the dark chocolate one the best. My personal favorites are the fruit ones, so you can see what the inside looks like here. This is the dark chocolate, this is the blueberry, and this is the cranberry and white chocolate chip. I'm not going to measure exactly, but I'm going to line the